So today I'm so excited to introduce Diana Kokoska. Diana, would you share a little bit about who you are?
Absolutely, Chris. First of all, thanks for having me on the podcast. I love being able to add value any way possible because I know you continue to add value to your clients. And that's what it's all about in this world.
Yeah.
Each and every one of us adding what we are able. And I learn from everyone. So I'm excited to learn on this as well, right? And so where did Diana start? At 5 years old, I started working in my parents' grocery store.
Mm.
Now, the fun part about that was that I was over the magazine rack. And well, if somebody came in, my dad taught me, if a gentleman picks up a magazine that has a car on it, you are instantly to grab the magazines that have cars on them and say, if you like that one, you might like this too. So see, at
Mm.
5 years old, I knew what Amazon knew. I knew what other salespeople knew, right? Then when I went to the checkout stand at 8 years old, I actually had to use a little step stool to get to the cash register to add everything up for them. And as we went through, we were taught that if they had ice cream, we were to go, oh, you don't have any topping for that ice cream.
Mm.
Don't you think your kids would love to have topping or whipped cream or cherries? Or in essence, some people called it an upsell. Dad called it adding value.
Mm.
And I believe at a very young age, that's when I learned that you could add value to whomever you're around. Always wanting to plus, not necessarily sell, wanting to plus their life and making it better wherever they lived and whatever they did. Now let's fast forward a little bit, of course, through college and everything. I thought I was going to go to work for NASA. I majored in physics and math and
Wow.
loved the space program. I have
Mhm.
everything from the time they started talking about space with John F. Kennedy. I kept all the newspapers, and I mean, I was like a junkie on that kind of stuff. Who would have ever thought I'd have ended up in real estate? Well, see, to go to college, I had three jobs, and one of them was selling, and one was telemarketing. I didn't really like the telemarketing, yet it helped pay the way, right?
Right.
Now, the interesting part is I eventually got to work in the physics lab learning about energy. And all of this was uh, accumulating what it was that I was to do.
Mm.
So in sales, the person that sold me my first home, he said, you should be in real estate. Instead of making $3 a bottle on the stuff that you sell right now, why don't you make a little bit more money by making a sale? And it intrigued me, but I didn't have the money, Chris. So one night I was up with a sick child and I was watching TV. Here's what I want people to get from this. See, there was an auction going, and it was for a brokerage, a real estate class to get a real estate license. And I had $50. And I thought, oh, I can't possibly do this. And my mind was saying, don't embarrass yourself. Yet part of my mind was saying, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So I did it. Well, it was 2 in the morning. I obviously was the only one that wanted to go to real estate school because I won. So I want people to get out of that. Don't be afraid to take a chance and to bet on yourself. Now, I got my real estate license, and in those days in Denver, Colorado, real estate was a man's world. It took me 12 offices before I found one that would take me. They all had their, as they called it, token woman, right? And I remember these women. They became my heroes, right? Emma Curtis was with Van Scott, and uh, my word, it was just amazing to see these people as to who they were and go, how did you get in? Well, I finally found somebody. And then I woke up the next morning going, I can't afford a babysitter. How in the world am I going to sell real estate? So I put my kids in a little red wagon and I started going door to door. What I want people to learn from that is don't be afraid to do whatever it takes. And yes, people laughed at me. Yes, they put me down. Yes, they said all sorts of awful things about me, yet they weren't going to buy and sell real estate from me because they were realtors, for heaven's sakes, right? So I went on. Average agent at that time was selling 5 homes a year. I sold 104. So I laughed all the way to the bank. It worked. Take a chance on yourself, bet on yourself. That is the best investment that you can make. I did very well in real estate. God blessed me a lot. And as I went on, I eventually started my own company. Now, here's something else people should learn. Watch your money. I didn't watch my money, Chris. It was my fault. I had started a property management division, had 4 offices, making a lot of money, thought I was on top of the world. And unfortunately, somebody helped themselves to all my money. Needless to say, because I didn't watch it, my responsibility, um, I ended up owing 72 house payments 3 times over. Now, I don't want to get into the details. People don't need to hear it. What they need to hear is visit your money often. If you want a relationship with money, you got to have a relationship. You don't just take somebody out once a year and do a P&L once a year or pay taxes once a year. You look at it. I mean, I watch my money weekly now. What's my net worth monthly? What am I doing? How am I increasing? And not increasing for money's sake, increasing because you get to a point going from success to significance. Success is all about you. And that's what it was back in the day. It was all about me and how much I could make and what I could do and the accolades, businesswoman of the year, entrepreneur of the year, etc. And then all of a sudden we go to significance where it's really about all the other people. And it's about giving back. And so now money is more about what I can give back versus what I make it so I can give it. And it's become so much more fun. So watch your money.
It's
As you
good.
know, I went on to work at Keller Williams Realty International, being the CEO of MAPS Coaching and Training. And I just want people to hear that I don't care where you start. I don't care what you're going through. If we expect life to be easy on us, then we are, we're living in a hallucinated world, right? It's through those tough times. It's through having to walk through the fire that forges us into the sharpness, into the person that we can become. And so when we have a crisis, literally, crisis can be our greatest opportunity. It really depends what we do with that crisis. And today, I believe that a crisis should be celebrated. Think about some of the crises. Think about the things that people go through and they complain. Well, if you're complaining, guess what? You just find more to complain about.
Right.
And if you give gratitude, well, you find more to be grateful for. And we look at all of these things happening in the world. Every single great thing started with a crisis. So,
So good. So, Diana, you mentioned your real estate business, selling 100 homes your first 12 months. I mean, you clearly were committed and on a mission. Then you, MAPS business coaching. I was first introduced to you in 2016 when I joined Keller Williams and I took Bold for the first time. So I'm curious, how did Bold, as far as the business objective, a life by design, how did that unfold? How did that come about?
it's a very good question. First of all, when I took over MAPS, it was losing money.
Oh,
And so nobody wanted to use MAPS, not even the president or the CEO of the company. They had Johnny Johnson as their coach. They had Craig Proctor. They were promoting all these other coaching companies. In fact, I had my picture taken with both of them, and it was on the front of the newspaper back then. And
wow.
so I want people to hear it doesn't matter where you start. Once again, there's a common theme here. It's what are you going to do about it? What are
Hmm.
you going to do to give so much to the people that they desire to be around you? Well, we started MAPS coaching and it was me and a finance person. As we built it, people were doing very well. And then all of a sudden a crisis hit. Everyone knows back in 2009. In fact, I was speaking with a banker the other day and he said a lot of people don't realize that was a depression. What we went through in 2009, 10, and 11 in real estate, in banking, all over the world, people were in devastation. Businesses were dropping. Agents were dropping out of the business. Keller Williams, only 10% of the market centers or offices, as most people know them, were making money. 90% were losing money. They said that over 3,000 businesses a day were going out of business as entrepreneurs. Think about this. So Mary Tennant, the president, calls me in and she goes, Diana, you've been through markets like this, maybe not as devastating, yet we need help. What can you do? What can you write? I said, I can write a course. She goes, don't tell anybody what you're doing. Don't let anybody even interfere with it. And you know what's interesting, Chris, is how many people say they wrote Bold. Yet I truly believe Bold was inspired because she told me, do not bring anybody in. Well, I took that very seriously. So I wrote Bold at my house, not at work. It was at 2 in the morning and on weekends. And that's why I say it was inspired, because I started going back through all my old journals, reading about what I went through, reading about what was happening in my mind. Because, see, everything begins with a thought. Everything out there begins with a thought. So I had to get the people's thinking right. It was the first course ever in real estate to have mindset woven in. And I had studied so much about the brain because both my brother and sister had brain tumors, and I desired to help them all I could. I desired more to understand them. You know, why did they get so angry? Why did they act the way they did? What could I do to get better? And it really intrigued me about how this thing called our brain, how we train it. You know, people think our brain thinks for us. No, we taught it how to think, and we can teach it how to think a new way, right? So here this thing is, I didn't even know what to call it. And in the middle of the night, Bold came to me. It was literally reading out of the Bible, because people go, oh yeah, Bold is owned by a certain company. And I'm going, no, 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 no. The word bold is in the Bible. We're supposed to live bold, to be bold, to pray bold prayers. And I don't care what your faith is. I'm not here to put mine on you. I'm just here to tell you bold is something that we need to be every single day of our lives, right? Are you allowing boldness into your life? And it was called Business Objective, a Life by Design. That's what it stood for. And then I started thinking, if I could give some laws, some principles that people could could live by, not a practice. A practice is something that works once in a while. A principle works every single time. And that's what the bold laws were. People were confused by some of them. Like, you get what you deserve in your imagination. And they go, what do you mean by that? And I go, whatever you believe you are, that's who you will become. And I taught them the affirmation that what you believe about yourself is who you will become. So believe the very best in yourself. And I started thinking, okay, so I want affirmations at the beginning of every class, teaching their brains how to think. And that's how Bold was. It was all about that. You've taken it 8, 9, 10 times. You know, woven in amongst how to sell, how to serve, how to get repeat business. All of that was woven in. The words that we use are so important. When we think about our forefathers, think about the words that literally brought on our freedom. We the people. They didn't say, hey, it's all about me. They said, we the people. That we were created equal. Well, that was a big thing that caused a fight, because back then they did not believe we were created equal. Look at the words and how they shape our country. Look at the words and see how they shape your life. And whatever you say after I am is who you will become. And people don't even notice. They go, oh, I am so stupid. What, wait, why would you say that? And they don't even realize what they're saying. They just say it. And so knowing all of this, I brought it together so people could be bold. And as you know, it started out with 8 lessons. Now, back in the day, everything was free in real estate. You people were not paying because people were dropping out of the business. Everybody was giving it free. And I came along and said, it's going to cost you $799. We'll give you the first one free. After that, you pay. And I've got to tell you, Chris, nobody wanted to have it brought in because they said the agents would not do it. And I called some people, and Bruce Hardy was one of the first ones that jumped in. David Osborne jumped in. And these people that were willing to bet on me because they knew who I was, they knew my character, they knew what I stood for, they knew that I cared deeply about the agents. They allowed me to come in. And those first, I think we had 9 at the very beginning, 9 locations. Well, as you know, it built to hundreds of locations. Every October, we had about 110 to 120 locations and 200,000 people going through Bold. It was very exciting to see what had been done. And people go, "You wrote that." And I go, I did through the inspiration and help in what I believe my God, right, helped me, because you don't wake up at 2 in the morning knowing what to write, on weekends. And I would go to my husband and I'd say, "What do you think about this?" And he goes, "That is so far out there." I go, "I think they'll like it." Right. So we tested a lot of things. It came together very quickly. It went out, and as you know, it became one of the mainstays that saved the company. In fact, Gary Keller, the founder of Keller Williams, was so kind on stage to say, "Bold saved our company."
Wow.
And it warmed my heart to know that all the Bold coaches, all of the people that participated behind the scenes, the ones that made sure the books got there, the ones that helped make the workbook. Uh, I mean, Mona and Julie helped me so much with the workbooks, and they literally went through with me on my journals and decided which pages of my journals. I was sharing part of my personal life with these people. And I think I want people to hear this. I wanted so deeply to make an impact on people. Too many people want uh, to influence people. They want so badly to make it all about them, and they want to have that influence, like they want to impress them. And I didn't want to impress people. I wanted to impact people. This was about keeping their businesses going. This was about feeding their families. This was about keeping them intact so they had a business to go to, because people weren't hiring anywhere. It wasn't like you could give up real estate and run find a job right away. Every business was going through the same thing. And I want to have people hear the gravity of that, the gravity of that, the people that the greatness was unlocked in people like you that took Bold, because I knew greatness was inside of you. Every one of us have been given a gift. The question is, have we opened it up yet? We sit there, and if you fight for your limitations, guess what? You get to keep them. It's the greatest part of them. Yet I fight for people's greatness. I stand. In fact, I always said, I take a stand for your greatness more than you'll stand for your limitations. And it got me in trouble sometimes because I went up against people fighting for the underdog. I went up fighting for your greatness, Chris. When people would say, "Oh, they're this way," I go, "Yeah, but do you see the potential inside of them?" And I want to end this portion with just this one thought. See, I heard a story once. It was about a gentleman who died and went to heaven. He was a great general. And he met St. Peter at the pearly gates. We don't know if that's true, yet it's a good story. And he said, "You know what? Just curious. Who was the greatest general that ever lived on the face of the earth?" St. Peter stood there, said, "The guy right over there." And he goes, "What? Guy was my neighbor. He wasn't even a general." And he said, "Yes, I know. Yet he could have been the greatest general there ever was if somebody would have given him a chance." And when I heard that story from my dad, I thought, you know what? I've got to see the greatness in people. Some people say my standards were high, and they are. Why? Because I knew people could raise up to that. I was taught by my mentor, John Maxwell, put a 10 on everybody's head, and only they can take it off. And that's what I would say to people when I hired them. I'm putting a 10 on your forehead, and you can keep it or you can take it off, but it's based on the decisions that you make. Long answer to a very short question.
That's so good, Diana. I love getting the behind the scenes scoop from you. And you mentioned I launched my business in 2007. And so when you refer to 2009 to 11 as a time of depression looking back as far as the country and the world where we was at, what help us understand your thought process behind charging a fee. The reason I asked that is because last I had my first in-person paid event, and
Yep.
I was listening, and some people were, oh, I thought it was going to be free. I don't have the money. Like help me understand what was important about given in my mind, it's an opportunity for someone to bet on themselves. Would you be willing
I
to touch on that?
absolutely. See, the way that our brain works, it works on a value system. We all have values, right? A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people haven't really determined what their values are yet. You make decisions based on values. You can work with people that have different beliefs. It's hard to work with people that have different values. Wars are fought over values more than beliefs. And so understanding that I had to make this valuable to the people, or it would just be another free thing that they come and they listen to. And did I get motivated and then go home and do nothing with it? Yet I knew if they paid for it, especially during that time,
Mm-hmm.
they would absolutely do what I asked them to do, or they would fail. I'm going to give you an example. There's a lady in Atlanta. Her name is Nikki, and great lady, great agent. Her business was failing miserably. And she was one of those people that said, oh, do you have any scholarships? I can't afford to go to Bold. I go, well, sell something. I'm sure you have something. And she sold a treadmill. And she sold the treadmill for $800. And she went to Bold. He told me about this at a program we were both at. She had brought her husband and paid for him. And that program was $16,500 plus the airfare, plus the hotel for 3 nights. And we stayed in a hotel that was about $400 a night. So when you look at that, he was willing to do whatever it took. And that's what I knew people needed to do because that's the way our brain works. Why did they not have money? Because they haven't raised their financial thermostat. That's why I taught about the financial thermostat, and I keep talking about it today. Why were they unwilling to not attend Bold? Because they were all upset because it wasn't free. Well, everything in life is based on the decisions that we make. Are we betting on ourselves? Common theme here, right?
Right.
Bet on ourselves because personal growth is the only guarantee that tomorrow is going to be better than today. Without personal growth, your business grows to the extent that you do. Your finances grow to the extent that you do. Your relationships grow to the extent that you do. It's all about you and the growth that you have every single day.
That's
So
so
that's
good.
why I charge.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's giving someone an opportunity.
Yeah.
So Diana, there's some books that I start listening to, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, this book's resonating. I'll keep listening. Other books I start listening to, and it's like, no, this one's not for me. And yet with this one, I've done this process of pre-ordering because the title alone, Becoming More You Can't Get to Better Until You Get to Different, resonated with me. And then
Mhm.
I did the Audible, and then I'm going back through this, and this is one of those books where I'm being a student of, meaning I'm slowing down, I'm going back and highlighting. And so I would like to transition and talk about your new book, Becoming More. I think we
That's
all have been
great.
waiting for this one. So, number one, congratulations, Diana.
Thank you.
And you touched on greatness inside of us. Actually, I think that's the last statement that you make in the very last chapter of your book. So, could
Yeah.
you expand a little bit more on this idea that there's greatness in us?
Well, you know, God doesn't make junk. Let's face it. So why would we ever think that we weren't great if we're made in his image? Why would we not believe that we live in an abundant world? And he says, I've given each of you a purpose. Oh my goodness. What is my purpose? What am I here to do? Well, start doing things and see where your giftedness comes out, the characteristics. And yes, I did say that I wanted people to reach their greatness because there were countless men and women out there just waiting for them to allow that greatness to come out. Every one of us impact people in different ways. Is it good or is it bad? See, that's the question. And every one of us make decisions every single day. How are we making those decisions? And I think that's helps our greatness and our values help us make those decisions. And let's just think about some of the decisions that we should make. I mean, like, did you make a decision to be curious? Because unless you make that decision, your brain wants to go towards judgment. It's just natural, and it's the way that we go. Unless we train our brain to be curious. Secondly, the best decision you can make, even after you listen to this podcast, is get started. Whatever it is you desire to do, just get started. That old saying, the first step is the hardest one to take, right? The
Right.
third thing I would say is find mentors. And Chris, I've started a mentorship program and I took on 35 people for one mentorship program. I'm doing it with John Maxwell and I'm limiting it to 35. The next one I'm starting is for the masses. And I believe it's important that you have mentors in your life. Fourth, I would say make a decision to be bold. I know that you made that decision. It's right behind you. Be bold. And on my email, everything I have is be bold, right? Because that's the way we're supposed to be. How can you give back if you're not bold, right? Have you made the decision to make great relationships and to make relationships with your clients and go deep? Find out where they work, find out about their families. Because everybody, if you're in real estate or in any business right now, there is the product that you sell, the material thing that the people buy, but there's also an emotional buy that takes place. And I think we forget about that emotion and we don't go deep enough on our relationships. And do we make a plan? Do we actually write out a plan and a plan that what happens after we get the goal, right? And why are we having the goal and who it's going to help? And do we make decisions to cut our losses as entrepreneurs? Or do we just keep hanging in there thinking, oh my goodness, this is going to work. I so believe in this idea. Well, no, a decision. Are you teaching people about your greatness, what you have inside? Are you sharing it with others? Some people make the decision to do nothing. And sometimes that's the best decision you can make because instead of moving forward on something that people are telling you is not going to work and you kind of think it's not, maybe you don't move forward at all. But I think the best decision anybody can make, quite frankly, is the decision to give back. And I don't care if it's money or time or whatever. And as we go through this, I want people to think about the decisions they make because every choice makes you. Every choice you make makes you. So you touched on this book and every chapter, I built a model to how to train your brain to think. And every chapter has limiting and liberating ways of thinking. And it's more of a manual than a book.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a
Right.
manual. It's a class. I have people like the values chapter. One lady said, I've read it 5 times. and I'm not going any further until I nail what you've asked me to do.
Mm.
Now, she has since went past that chapter, and she's in the mentorship group that I started. And I just watch her and I see her leadership going up and up and up. And I love what's happening. And I love seeing people as they become great in their entrepreneurship, great in their businesses, and great in the fact that she's now teaching, she's now giving back, she's now building her legacy.
So good. When it comes to legacy, you built out a model, right? Becoming is part of one of those sides. I'm still working to internalize it, and yet I have it in front of me. Being and becoming, and legacy is at the very top of the model. Would you be willing to touch on legacy? What does that mean? Let's start with that. What does legacy mean to you?
Well, a lot of people believe that it's what you leave for your family, right? And it's not about money.
Mhm.
It's the things that you've taught your family. It's the character that you've built. It's what you're known for. Now, some people want to take your legacy away. Like, I'm known for writing bold. You know that. I'm known for a lot of things. And what are you known for?
Mhm.
And in my book, I have a quote, and it's by Stephen. And I mean, you can see it right there. I'm going to read it to you. It says, "This is my life, my story, my book. I will no longer let anyone else write it." Because see, my model starts with the current story of your life and
Mhm.
goes to the new story that you desire, a legacy that you desire to leave. And he says, "Nor will I apologize for the edits I make." And
Mhm.
that's why I say it doesn't matter where you're at right now. It matters where you're going and what you want to be known for. Jeff Henderson wrote a book on what do you want to be known for? And he asked the question, what do you want to be known for? He also asked the question, what are you known for? It's interesting. So in my book, I ask people to write out their eulogy. And I know that sounds a little weird because nobody wants to think about their death. Yet, if you write out your own eulogy and you narrow it down to just a sentence or two, and then you wake up every single day. Let me give you an example. I wrote out my eulogy. It took me a long time. I rewrote it probably 4 or 5 times. And I narrowed it down to she made a difference and added value daily. That was it. And so with that, I went, so how do I make a difference? Well, I started writing courses. I wrote 9 for Keller Williams University. I helped with many things there in the teaching area as well as the coaching arena. And because I wanted to be known for giving back, I wanted to be known for helping people with their lives and adding value and making a difference. And every morning on my phone at 7 a.m., it goes off and it says, what will you do today to add value to other people? And at 7 p.m., it goes off and it says, what did you do to add value to other people? And so it's kind of an accountability that I've had. And before phones, it was in my written calendar. Right at 7 a.m., I wrote it out and it was there every day to look at. So what is it that you want to be known for? Write out your eulogy, narrow it down. And then every legacy is either liberating you or it's limiting you when you think about it. A liberating legacy is one that's you're multiplying. You're not just adding, like, oh, I did this and then I did this and then I did this. No, you did it and then you multiplied it. Like I taught bold. I taught the first bold, taught the first 3 bolds, right? Then I brought other people in and taught them. I wrote out word for word what the coaches were to say. They got a manual that was written absolutely word for word what to say. We went up to 57 bold coaches. With the one-on-one coaches, 357 of them, teaching models and systems, taking it from me to we, right? Taking it from I to us, including multiplying. Because see, if I add 5 people to my organization and every one of them are tens, then 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10, that's 50. Yet if I multiply those people, develop those people, have them become leaders of their own, and I have 5 people that are all tens, now I've got 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. That's 100,000. So instead of 10,000, I got 100,000. Think of multiplication, not addition.
Mm.
The second thing is, are you increasing? Are you having dynamic growth and growth in your mind that you're reading and listening to podcasts like this? Or growth in your mind with great mentors that you can learn from? And it's not about doing. You you can't do it until you are being it. So it's about be, do, have, and then ultimately giving, which is about legacy. If you're not growing, you are not building a legacy. So what's your personal growth plan? In the book, I share a personal growth plan that you can write out one of your own. And for everyone in your organization, you should be able to say, here's my personal growth plan, which I shared in bold every single year. I shared my personal growth plan with every single student that took bold. I mean, I was an open book, transparent, authentic. Are you advancing? Because you're either moving forward or you're moving backward, because the world is going. Even if you're on a treadmill, if you don't pick up your feet, you're going to be knocked off, right? Go backwards. And if you don't believe me, just watch some of those YouTube treadmill fails, right? I laugh so. The other one in liberating is, are you adding value to other people? Now, in limiting legacies, well, obviously there's only one thing: you're shrinking and depleting. And it's not just, it's all areas of your life. Like you brought up the triangle. Well, you start with your current story and then you go through your thoughts, because that's where it all starts. Now, depending on the research that you read, you can have 6,000 thoughts a day. I've read that. And I've also read, like Dr. Joe Dispenza says, it's 60,000 unconscious thoughts a day. And so whatever it is, it's a lot. The problem is that 90% of those are the same thoughts you had yesterday and the day before that and the day before that. Because see, your brain loves easy. Your brain loves simple. Your brain wants to take the path of least resistance. So when you have a thought, you have a neuron that travels along an axon, and you have another neuron that it hits, and that's the path. I know there's lots of other things. If you're into neuroscience, please forgive me. I'm simplifying this. So here's the path that you go. Let me ask you, if you walk across a field or a patch of grass the first time, doesn't do much, does it, Chris?
Yeah.
If I walk across it over and over and over again, though, what eventually happens to that trail?
Yeah, it's going to be wore down. It's going to be a clear path.
That's what happens in our mind.
Mm.
And pretty soon, instead of going around that path, it's just easier to take that path. And that's the way your brain works. Now, neuroscience teaches us that nerve cells that fire together wire together.
Mhm.
It also teaches us, and this is the greatest discovery of all times for me, is that nerve cells that no longer fire together no longer wire together, which means our brain is like plastic. It can be molded. We're the ones that mold it. How are you molding your brain? And this book tells you how to mold it into a liberating and abundant mindset. So then we go from our thoughts, they become our beliefs, because we've had them over and over and over again. So let me ask you, if I stop taking that path,
Mhm.
what eventually happens to the grass and the weeds?
It'll grow
Does
back.
it over? Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's what happens in our brain. And pretty soon we don't take that path anymore. That's because we're becoming someone new. We're
Mm.
writing a new story. See, too many people, they fight for the story that they're telling. They fight so hard they get to keep it. No, just make up a new story. It's all an illusion anyway. Come on. Make up the story you desire and then go live that story. But it's your thoughts, your beliefs, and then those beliefs, they become your values. And thoughts, beliefs, and values and emotions all coupled together. And it's this mind and body working together. You have insecure thoughts, you feel insecure. You feel insecure, you have more insecure thoughts. And it's this loop that goes mind, body, mind, body, mind, body, mind, body. And it just keeps going round and round. From there, all of this makes up your mindset. And it's not a mindset. Did you know that when I Googled mindsets and looked in neuroscience books, I found over 150 different mindsets listed? And
Mm.
people don't realize that because Carol Dweck did a fabulous job. He wrote an entire book on growth versus fit.
Mhm.
So you could write an entire book on scarcity versus abundance. You could write an entire book on entitlement versus gratitude or grateful, right? Well, I took it down to 7 mindsets by studying great people. And these 7 mindsets, 7 will liberate you and 7 will limit you. You have to read the book.
Yeah.
And we even have an assessment you can take to tell you where you are on all of these mindsets. All of this, though, goes on to perspective. How you view things is how you do things. So
Mm.
how are you viewing life? It's all made up from all the things I've talked about before. And we build this triangle to where the words that we choose, the character that we have, the goals that we set, the personal growth plan that we have, and then into personal development. The energy encompasses it all, which makes up a new story, leaving a legacy. And I just want to touch real quick on character because I know our time is coming to an end. And in the liberating and limiting character, because this is something that you're going to be known for in your legacy, right? So, what is your character? As I said earlier, what are you known for? If you're limiting, well, then you're degrading yourself. You live in a fearful world. You have anxiety, which most of the world has right now. You're unappreciative of yourself, or you're egotistical, thinking, I know that. I don't need to take a class. I've already got it all figured out. You're self-centered. It's all about you and not in a good way, right?
Right.
And you don't really anticipate the character that you desire to become. Have you ever written down who you admire and what characteristics they have, and then say, do I have those same characteristics?
Mm.
What's it like to be on the other side of me?
Mm.
And I'm sure there were times people didn't like being on the other side of me, and then there's other times they love being on the other side of me. It's up to me as to which one I want to show up as, right? And are you encouraging? Do you encourage others? That's a liberating characteristic that you desire to have. Absolutely. Are you courageous? Do you live bold? Are you being bold? Like you said, be bold. That's the biggest thing. Uh, do you persevere? I think perseverance is something, that grit, that resilience, and you
Mm.
build resilience
Yeah.
through your thoughts.
Mhm.
Because see, every story, everything that you're going through right now, Chris, everything that we encounter, we
Mm.
decide what character we're going to play in the story called our life. Are we going to be a villain? Are we going to be a victim? Or are we going to be the hero of our own life? Are we going to have coaches and mentors into our lives to help us become the hero? Because we get to choose. Every one of us are playing one of those characters. By the way, every movie, Hollywood adopted that, right? The
Yeah.
villain, the victim, and the hero.
Yeah.
Every movie we love have those 3. Well, your story has one. The question is, which character are you playing? A
Mm.
bigger question is, are you playing the main character in the story called your life, or have you given the pen to somebody else, allowing them to write the story? And if you have, what kind of story are they going to write for you? I
Mm.
bet you it's one that's going to serve them, not serve you. Are
Right.
you grateful? When
Yeah.
you give gratitude for all you have, guess what? You get more to be grateful for. And in the book, I talk about, take a gratitude walk, even going from here to the coffee machine. Think about the things you're thankful for, and then give gratitude for those things on the way back to your desk. Are you humble?
Mm.
Now, humility is not thinking less of yourself, like, oh, I don't want to show that, I don't want to talk about doing all these things. And I used to be that way. I didn't talk about being businesswoman of the year 3 times, entrepreneur of the year 4 times, receiving many awards. The only person in Keller Williams that won every single award that they gave away for the entrepreneur, the one at the inspirational breakfast, the cultural award, the uh, innovation award that Mo Anderson gives. I mean, if I don't tell people about that, which I never did, why would they ever dream to do it?
It's good. It's a good point.
Sometimes we don't allow other people to dream by sharing our faults
Yeah.
and our greatness. See, humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less than you
Mm.
think of others, right? We're here to serve. Are you
Yeah.
compassionate? Do you have empathy? Do you understand where people are? Or do you just judge them? Well, I don't like them because they did this. They should have done it this way. Well, then you're into a judgment mindset, not a curiosity mindset. And attitude and mindset are different. Attitude, you can change that fast. Mindset's in your unconscious. Attitude is in your conscious mind. And unless your conscious mind and your unconscious mind are in alignment, you're never going to make goal. That's why the book is so important. And then what character do you want to play in your life? That's what I really want to get across here. And it doesn't matter where you started. What matters is where you end up. You can't go back and change the past, yet you can change the rest of your life based on the decision you make right now. The decision to be bold, the decision to take charge of your life, the decision to write out the story that you desire to have happen in your life, the decision to live that story every single day of your life, the decision to give back to others and give financially. People say, I'll give money when I have it. No, you'll have more money when you give it.
That's so good.
So crazy. Money's an energy. All of this is in the book.
Yeah.
Raise your financial thermostat. Get everything going. And I'm telling you, this is a manual to
Yep.
teach yourself how to think different. You can't get to better until you get to different.
Right.
Blockbuster didn't want to be different.
That's a good
Netflix
point.
Netflix offered to sell to them for $50 million. Did you know that? Oh,
No.
because Blockbuster was making like 4 billion. They go, we don't need that. Nobody's going to want that. Did you know when Blockbuster went out of business? I can't remember how many. Well, here, I have it here somewhere. Let me see if I can find that because I got to tell you, it was amazing. Okay, in 2023, Netflix brought in over $33.7 billion. It's
Wow.
easily one of the biggest streaming platforms in the world and paved the way for others. Yet think about that. In 2000, this little young Netflix tried to sell itself for $50 million. And
Mm.
Blockbuster says, we got it all figured out. We don't have to think different. What do you think you've got figured out?
That's a
And
good point.
maybe you got to think different. Let
Yeah.
this book help you think different because that you're not going to get to better till you do. So I hope that helps, Chris. It's been so
Absolutely.
much fun being with you.
Absolutely. Hey, where can we find out more about this mentorship program?
Well, you know what? They can go to Diana.Kokoska on Instagram. They can follow me on Facebook, Diana Kokoska. You can go to becomingmorebook.com and
Okay.
opt in.
Yeah.
Every Monday, uh, Tuesday, I send out my own podcast. So Monday, Tuesday, Friday, they get information. Friday was an entire thing about values. And it
Mm.
had a little exercise in there. I've had so many people text me going, oh my gosh, your Friday facts was fabulous. And then I do a Sunday thoughts. And
Okay.
it's just things about the book, things they can do for their brain, things they can do to sell more, things they can do to become a better leader. It
Yeah.
encompasses a lot of things. When they opt in, then they'll find out a bit about the mentorship that will be starting up. So,
Okay.
Chris, thank you so much. See ya. Bye
Thank
bye.